Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
Alert. Heavy damage. Standard Taunts lethal test estimated. Initiate short-range temporal. Activating short-range attack gear.
To be. Is a mixed-range wall breaker that is designed to string together huge amounts of damage and overwhelm her opponents with a wide variety of powerful and crippling attacks. Speed and range are 2B's greatest weapons, allowing her to dominate opponents at mid to close range, all while also utilizing unique abilities to weave in and out of combat and counter aggression with painful special attacks. But if an opponent manages to stay outside of her pressure range, she might struggle to gain any ground in a match, especially since there's no lock-on feature in Smash Bros. When playing as 2B, do your best to stay in close to your opponent and minimize their potential offense. For while her speed can allow her to weave in and out of combat, 2B has only one major defensive option, and it's one that will require timing and practice to perform consistently. 2B stands as a medium-sized humanoid character, her size being comparable to that of Peach and Daisy. In terms of her basics, a lot of 2B's standard animations can be pulled straight from Nier Automata, including her walk, run, jump, double jump, and more. However, there's one other source to pull from that serves as 2B's lone fighting game appearance, Soul Calibur 6. Pulling a lot of her character abilities straight from Nier, Soul Calibur 6's 2B serves as a great reference point when it comes to translating the high-paced action of Nier into a fighting game, with 2B's idle pose and block being based on this iteration. 2B will also utilize a wide array of weaponry in her moveset, although a majority of her attacks are based around 3 weapons, those being her 2 main blades, Virtuous Contact and Virtuous Treaty, and her pod, who can utilize a variety of different programs to help her out in a fight. Other than that, 2B will also utilize a spear known as Virtuous Dignity and a pair of combat bracers known as Virtuous Grief, each weapon having their own purpose with a few moves apiece. In terms of mobility options, 2B has 2 jumps, lacking any additional movement options. When it comes to her unique mechanics as a character, 2B will have a number of abilities that call back to her Nier Automata appearance, including the ability to slow her descent while holding onto her pod, and firing her pod's Gatling gun by holding down the A button, which will create a stream of long-range but very weak projectiles that lack any hit stun. However, 2B has 2 major mechanics attached to her as a character, and while they both fulfill different goals, they can be used in tandem with each other, these being Aggression Shift and Evade Protocol. Aggression Shift is a command dash that will thrust 2B either forwards or backwards, depending on what direction the player inputs the move, and can even be used while airborne, essentially granting 2B an air dash. To perform this command dash, the player must input a quarter circle motion in their desired direction, with the player even being able to swap directions mid-dash by holding the opposite direction after the quarter circle motion, giving this move mix-up potential. While Aggression Shift's mobility is fantastic, it also comes with 2 unique attacks that can only be performed while in the middle of the dash animation. While dashing forward, tapping A will have 2B unleash a flurry of punches from her combat bracers, while dashing backwards will have 2B perform an advancing stab with her spear. Of course, while mix-up potential and extra forms of mobility are nice, 2B can perform another unique ability out of Aggression Shift, which is the second half of her character mechanic, Evade Protocol. Evade Protocol is 2B's main way of bypassing incoming damage in Nier Automata, having the character phase out of the way while temporarily slowing the world around her, giving her a chance to perform a counterattack. While it might not be on the same level as Witch Time, anything that can keep you in the battle for as long as possible is always a plus. In Smash, Evade Protocol can be performed by timing the first 3 frames of aggression shift or a roll with an incoming enemy attack, be it a physical strike or a projectile, slowing time for a brief moment and allowing for 2B to get off a counter strike. This is 2B's greatest defensive option, and if used properly, it essentially allows for her to stay in the fight far longer than other characters in her weight class, which is nice as 2B doesn't have many tools designed for survivability. 2B can also perform a unique counterattack while in the middle of Evade Protocol, which is known as Pod Blaster. By holding the B button while in the middle of her dodge, 2B will pull her pod in close and unleash a long-range blast of fire, dealing above average damage and knockback if it comes into contact with an opponent. This move's range gives 2B the chance to hit an opponent if they're either outside of her normal attack range or if she just countered a projectile, but be careful as it's slow on the recovery. As you can probably tell, 2B is a character that will rely on timing and mobility to stay alive in a fight, meaning she's probably not a character meant for beginners. Regardless, once mastered, you'll be hard-pressed to find a character that can overwhelm their opponent like 2B. Now that you have an idea of how 2B is meant to be played, let's now discuss the moves that make up her offensive strength and move on to her normals. As previously mentioned, 2B will utilize 5 different weapons in battle, these being 2 swords, a spear, a pair of combat bracers, and her pod. There will also be instances of 2B fighting using her bare hands, but these shows of power are few and far between. 2B's neutral combo is Slash Sequence, which is a pair of sword slashes that will translate into 2B throwing her sword forward, dealing rapid damage and pulling the opponent back towards her as she catches the blade mid-spin and performs one final slash to knock the foe away. This combo is the standard attack combo if you are using a small sword as your first weapon in Nier Automata, although the extra slash at the end comes from Soul Calibur 6. With its solid startup speed and range, this is one of 2B's best overall moves, but keep in mind that 2B is left wide open if the opponent gets between her and the thrown blade. 2B's forward tilt is Severing Sequence, a series of 4 powerful slashes with her sword that will push 2B forward as she attacks. While the last slash is the only one that can launch, the player is capable of canceling this attack after the first and second slash by rolling, shielding, jumping, or performing an aggression shift, giving her some semblance of safety should her attacks be blocked. This can also be used to bait shields and counters, which can easily be punished with one of 2B's other combo starters. 2B's up tilt is Piercing Sequence, 2B spinning her spear up and over her head twice before slashing forward, knocking the foe away. While 2B can cancel this attack after the second overhead swing, this move lacks any serious vertical knockback, meaning 2B lacks an effective anti-air that doesn't put her at risk. Despite this, the 2 spear strikes can be used to set up aerial combos and can combo into itself at lower percents. 2B's down tilt is Sweeping Sequence, 2B performing a sweeping kick that will knock out the opponent's balance before transitioning to a rapid hitting bracer combo to launch her foes away. Like her up tilt, this attack can be cancelled after the first attack in order to have it serve as a combo starter, and like her up tilt, this move's main launch angle is horizontal as opposed to vertical. Also, thanks to its low knockback growth, the sweeping kick can serve as a combo starter even at later percents. 2B's dash attack is the first of her many pod programs, namely pod program A160 Missile. With this, 2B will hold on tightly as her pod jets forward at incredible speed, ramming into the closest opponent and not stopping for anything, even shields. This move is at its strongest at the beginning of the attack, both in terms of damage and the fact that 2B can potentially reposition herself outside of her opponent's effective attack range thanks to the distance this move covers. For her get-up attack, 2B will spin around and perform a kick on either side of herself, all while utilizing pod program RO40 Blade as her ledge attack. 2B's smash attacks will utilize her larger blade, Virtuous Treaty, in order to deal big, powerful attacks with a wide range. But as the sword is even larger than she is, it's rather slow on the recovery to compensate for its power. 2B's forward smash is Assault Pattern, 2B spinning forward and slashing 3 times with Virtuous Treaty, the final downward slash launching the foe with serious force. While this attack can hit a total of 3 times, it is possible for foes to DI out of the first 2 slashes at higher percents, which isn't that big of a problem as this move can KO quite early. 2B's up smash is Climb Sequence, 2B thrusting her blade upwards and dragging both her opponent and herself up into the air with it. This smash attack will transition 2B from grounded to an aerial state, and thanks to its weak knockback growth and quick cooldown, 2B can use this move to either start or continue combos by using aerial attacks. On top of that, this move can also be used to allow 2B to escape corners and set up an aerial mix-up, as 2B will still jump into the air even if this move is blocked by an opponent. Finally, 2B's down smash is Orbital Wave, a move that will mix both her blade's length and her pod's quick backup to catch foes on either side of herself. To start this attack, 2B will swing Virtuous Treaty around herself, dealing solid damage before leaping up into the air and shooting Pod down into the ground, creating a shockwave of energy along the floor from Pod program A080 Wave. The initial spin attack will launch foes away with moderate force, but the impact from Wave will briefly incapacitate the opponent, putting them in a crumple state and leaving them wide open to incoming damage. 2B herself will also be able to bypass incoming attacks by leaping up into the air, with the wave even hitting foes that are holding onto the ledge thanks to its very low hitbox. As she hails from an action game, 2B is no stranger to transitioning between grounded and aerial combat, especially since she is a platinum child just like Bayonetta. For her aerial attacks, 2B will mainly utilize her small sword, Virtuous Contract, and unarmed combat, all while utilizing Pod as a backup. 2B's neutral air is Unarmed Flurry, 2B performing a spinning kick while being backed up by Pod 042, which will utilize Pod program R040 Blade and spin around in the opposite direction of 2B in order to provide more damage and coverage. This attack's speed and damage are above average, and while 2B's kick isn't disjointed, Pod's blade is, meaning this move might be able to win exchanges more easily depending on which part of the attack the opponent connects with. 2B's forward air is Aerial Slash Sequence, this being an aerial rendition of her neutral combo. With this, 2B will perform 2 slashes before throwing her sword out in front of her, this attack knocking foes back as this combo lacks the 4th and final hit of the grounded combo. If they use your fast falls after throwing out the sword, this attack can also be used to lengthen combos, as 2B can follow up with a grounded normal while the opponent is caught in the spinning blade. 2B's up air is Pod Vault, 2B using her pod as balance as she throws her body up into the air, dealing heavy damage in a powerful rising kick. While this move is quite slow on startup, it more than makes up for it with its kill potential and ability to essentially act as a third jump thanks to its vertical range. 2B's back air is Pod Orbital, 2B holding onto her pod as she swings her body around, attacking behind her with a powerful roundhouse kick. Like most back airs, this move serves as a kill move, but if the attack button is held, 2B will throw herself forward through the air, also turning this move into a horizontal recovery option. Finally, 2B's down air is Drop Sequence, 2B performing a downward slash with her smaller sword and pulling the opponent in close before performing a fast falling slash, launching the foe straight down and dealing heavy damage. This double hitting attack will lock the opponent into the second hit if they manage to get hit by the initial spinning slash, meaning it can easily set up a meteor smash if the opponent is hit when past the edge of the stage. 2B will grab her opponent using her left hand, all while hitting them with the hilt of Virtuous Treaty for a pummel. For her throws, 2B will mainly utilize the throws she received in Soul Calibur 6, all while also making use of the finishing blows 2B can perform on downed opponents in Nier Automata. 2B's forward throw is Suppression Slash Kick, 2B slashing into her opponent before kicking them away with a roundhouse kick. This is 2B's standard throw from Soul Calibur 6, and while it deals moderate damage, its kill potential is rather low. 2B's up throw is Suppression Heel Drop, 2B jumping up into the air and bringing her foot down on her opponent, knocking them into the floor and launching them up into the air by force. This is based on one of 2B's finishing touch attacks from Nier Automata, and it can serve as 2B's combo throw. 2B's back throw is Suppression Composite Slash, 2B positioning the opponent behind her as she attacks using a spinning sword slash, all while spinning around on her spear implanted in the ground. While big and flashy, this is 2B's strongest overall throw, but despite that, its kill potential is only moderate at best. Finally, 2B's down throw is Suppression Unarmed Leg Throw, 2B grabbing her opponent's head between her legs and spin dropping them into the floor, bouncing them off the ground and up into the air. While I'm sure there are people out there that would kill to be in that position, let it be known that this throw serves as a combo throw, and being crushed by the bodily equivalent of a trash compactor isn't something you'd want to experience more than once. 2B's combat and weapon variation is impressive, she surprisingly doesn't really have any special abilities outside of Aggression Shift and Evade Protocol. Instead, all of her special attacks are courtesy of Pod 042, which will utilize 4 iconic abilities to help 2B control the battlefield and approach opponents looking to push her out. 2B's neutral special is not only the first pod program you acquire while playing Nier Automata, but is arguably the most iconic. This being Pod Program R010 Laser. This high-powered ordnance will have Pod charge up energy within its core for as long as the B button is held, and when released, it will unleash a long-range energy blast that will deal solid damage and serve as a kill move if it's fully charged. While charging, the player can tilt the analog stick up and down to angle the trajectory of the blast, with the blast itself also passing through all opponents in its path, regardless of whether or not they're holding up their shield. Once the laser has fired, Pod will go into a small cooldown period, preventing 2B from using other special attacks for a short period of time, with the period of time being dependent on the length of the charge and the move used. If the laser is fired instantly, it will only take 30 frames, or half a second, to recharge. But if fully charged, Pod will go into a 2-second recharge period, which also includes a recovery special, so be careful. 2B's side special will utilize a more technical program, one that's designed to set up combos and open up your opponent's defenses. Pod Program A150 Volt. When used, Pod's shell will open up and flash, 5 electric prongs appearing and shocking an area of effect in front of 2B. Any opponent standing in this bubble will take a small percent of damage and be forced into a crumple state, leaving them wide open to incoming damage while also receiving a damage over time effect. If charged, this move's range, duration, and damage over time will increase, with the initial shock also being able to bypass shields when fully charged, along with aerial opponents going into a freefall state. Normally, Pod will take 1.5 seconds to recharge from a standard use of Volt, but if fully charged, Pod will take 3 seconds to recharge before coming back online, so be careful when using this move at higher percents. While a majority of Pod's programs in Nier are designed to deal damage, some of them are instead designed for utility, with abilities such as creating decoys to distract enemies, barriers that can deflect both melee and projectile attacks, and a lot more. Thankfully, Pod has a useful ability that serves as 2B's recovery special, this being Pod Program A090 Wire. With this, 2B will have Pod fire out a wire in one of 8 directions, it then hooking into whatever is in its path, be it the stage or an opponent. Once hooked in, 2B will be launched towards the target at incredible speed, this allowing for 2B to start a close-up assault or to effectively recover when off stage. This can also be used to grapple opponents trying to chase you, so if you end up fighting a cheeky player who tries to close out your stock with a spike, counter their cockiness with a hook and an attack of your own. As opposed to the other Pod programs, Wire has no cooldown and cannot be charged. And while hooked on, the player can input a regular attack in order to cancel their forward momentum, preventing them from rushing to their target. Also, as an added bonus, Wire can also be utilized to bypass incoming projectiles by hooking onto them, essentially using it as a slingshot to move forward past it, although this will not work on explosives and beams. 2B's down special will utilize another iconic ability that is designed as both utility and damage, this being Pod Program R050 Spear. With this, 2B will have her pod summon up a wave of white arrow-like spears from the ground, impaling anyone in their path before launching them up into the air. This grounded hitbox can catch enemies recovering from the ledge, all while also destroying any destructible items or equipment in its path, such as capsules, item boxes, Snake C4, and Pac-Man's hydrant. When charged, Spear's range and damage will increase, along with greatly increasing its shield pressure. Normally, Pod will take 2 seconds to recover from a normal use of Spear, but if fully charged, it will take a total of 4.5 seconds to recover. And while that might not sound like very much time, every second is vital in a high-paced game like Smash Bros. Next is the final smash, and for this stylish finisher, 2B will be accompanied by her traveling and combat companion, Scanner Unit 9S. Both of them combining abilities to blow away the competition. This is Pod Combination Mirage Assault. When this final smash starts, 2B and 9S will activate their pods simultaneously, both of them unleashing pod program R020 Mirage and delivering a series of rapid and deadly slashes to all foes caught in the area of effect. All before both of them summon forth a second pod, and then a third pod, extending the damage and increasing the range and damage over time. Once the rapid slashes conclude, 2B and 9S will both begin to charge up R010 Laser. All three of their pods join together as they build up energy. After a final battle cry, the two will unleash 3 laser blasts at the same time, turning it into a full screen beam super that will deal rapid damage, it then launching the caught opponents away and concluding the final smash. 9S then leaping off screen after a small exchange with 2B. However, while Mirage Assault is 2B's standard final smash, she does have a secret secondary final smash. One that can only be accessed if 2B is both close to her opponent and over 150% damage. This is Gravity Well Core Detonation. Anyone who has played Nier Automata is well aware of the fact that, once the prologue has been completed, 2B's core can be detonated at any point, dealing huge amounts of damage but also severely damaging 2B in the process, even if players tend to do it for another reason. When this final smash begins, 2B will issue an order to her pod then launching out pod program A140 Gravity and rooting the opponent in place. Claiming that there's no other way to end the battle, 2B will slowly move towards her opponent and sit down on top of them, holding onto them tightly as she begins to activate her self-destruct feature. As the countdown ticks down to 0, an immense explosion will be released from 2B's body as her opponent's body is erased. This move being a guaranteed kill but a serious detriment to 2B, as her percent will instantly go up to 999%. Also, in regards to whether or not she would lose her skirt from the blast, yes she would, but only momentarily. There is a lot of fantastic music in Nier Automata, a lot of which could definitely serve as a victory theme in Smash Bros. However, for this moveset, I decided to go with the ending riffs of City Ruins, as not only is it one of the most iconic songs in the game, it's also one of the songs you'll hear the most, especially if you're going for 100%. Victory animation number 1 will have 2B flip into view of the camera, all before unsheathing her blade and striking a dramatic pose. This is a reference to her first on-screen appearance in Nier Automata, this shot of her unsheathing her blade also being used for her critical art in Soul Calibur 6. Victory animation number 2 will have 2B and 9S appear alongside one another, 9S congratulating 2B on her victory with their dialogue changing between multiple options. This banter usually results in 2B being cold and telling 9S to focus on the mission, but there might be instances of a softer side to their banter, if you're lucky to hear it. Finally, victory animation number 3 will have 2B appraising her pod, all before the pod interrupts the moment by claiming they are being watched from below. Shocked, 2B will turn around, all before crossing her arms in a disappointed manner and letting out a small sigh. This is a reference to one of her victory animations from Soul Calibur 6, as well as an animation that can play in Nier Automata should the player try to look up 2B's skirt. Yes, the game does have a built-in trigger that will react to the player trying to sneak a peek under 2B's skirt, and there's even an achievement for trying to look 10 times. Taunt number 1 will have 2B appraise her pod, the two of them sharing a small quip as she pats its head. This is a reference to both an animation from Nier Automata and 2B's taunt from Soul Calibur 6, the dialogue for this taunt changing depending on how many times you use it. Taunt number 2 will have 2B perform the standard sword taunt of A2, another playable character from Nier Automata. One of A2's unique abilities is to perform taunts by holding the light attack button, and she has one for every weapon in the game. And while 2B never performs them, 2B and A2's combat style is so similar that I felt it would work as a nice reference. Finally, taunt number 3 will have 2B take a sitting position, this being the pose she takes when she's fishing in Nier Automata. If the player pushes the B button while in the middle of this taunt, 2B will toss her pod out in front of her, and if it comes into contact with an opponent, it will pick them up and pull them over to 2B's position. This command grab actually having setup potential as the opponent cannot escape this grab once they're picked up.
My stuff so cheap.
2B's colors are references to other major characters seen in Nier Automata, some of which might be considered spoilers, so here's your warning ahead of time. Color number 1 is 2B's standard appearance, featuring her fully black YoRHa combat uniform and visor and her standard white hair color. Color number 2 is 2B's second color option from Soul Calibur 6, darkening her skin as her hair is changed to black and her combat uniform is changed to a snow white. This form has been officially dubbed 2P, a reference to the fact that it's the second player color, and is surprisingly canon to the lore of Nier Automata. Play Final Fantasy XIV and you'll understand. Color number 3 will change 2B's hair to a wine red, while her YoRHa combat outfit will change to a mixture of white, red, and black. This is a reference to Devola and Popola, 2 android characters that are also connected to the first Nier title. Color number 4 will change 2B's hair to a bright silver, while her combat outfit will change to a variation of black, white, and gold. This is a reference to Adam, one of the main villains of Nier Automata. Color number 5 will change 2B's hair and combat outfit to a muted gray while also changing the pigment of her skin to a Nier albino. This color being a reference to Emil, a recurring character in the Nier series and the world's greatest salesman. You just can't say no to that face and that music. Also, when using this color, 2B's combat bracers will change to the Emil head's weapon. Color number 6 will give 2B blonde hair while changing her combat uniform to white and gold, a reference to the commander, the leader of YoRHa. Color number 7 will change 2B's hair to a brighter white while her combat uniform will change to a variation of white, black, and orange. This color is a reference to her trusty pod, Pod 042, or as I've endearingly nicknamed him, Weskerbot. Finally, color number 8 will change 2B's standard YoRHa combat uniform to the combat outfit she's seen wearing at the beginning of Route C, foregoing the dress for a fully black jumpsuit, large black boots, and armored gauntlets. Also, when Kirby absorbs 2B, he'll gain a copy of 2B's hair and visor, granting him access to pod program R010 Laser. 2B and Nier Automata is such a weird topic to talk about when it comes to Smash Brothers, and even more so now that I've actually fully completed the game, I can definitely understand why people want to see this character become a thing. 2B feels like she's in the same vein as characters like Dante and Kiryu, those characters from action-oriented titles that feel like they'd be right at home in a high-paced fighting game. And while Kiryu might not have that moniker yet, both Dante and 2B do. And after Bayonetta's transition to Smash Brothers, it's clear that action characters like 2B have a place in a platform fighter as well. However, 2B sadly has to compete with the fact that she's owned by a company whose only representation in Smash is a single game in a 15-game lineage in a series that's represented so poorly that it's almost comical they're in the game at all. Mix that with the fact that Nier Automata isn't on the Switch and you've got a conundrum that's hard to figure out. Still, I definitely have more interest in her now than I did when I decided to make a video on her last year, and it's kinda bittersweet that she's the character that's going to be my last video before the Smash Ultimate speculation period ends. Now don't get me wrong, there will be more videos coming this year, as there's at least 7 more videos planned before 2022, but I suppose the next time you see me, we'll know everything. We'll know the entire roster, the entire music selection, the entire stage list, the entire franchise list. It's really weird to think that it's just going to stop after all of this time. 2B really was right. Everything that lives is designed to end. Still, I'm not done yet, and as long as you're willing to watch, there will always be more content to be found. If you like what you saw, be sure to like and subscribe, as more content is coming in the future and you'll be able to look into the videos that came before this one. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in order to keep up to date on what's coming next, all while getting a look at art and other stuff I create in my off time. Also, if you're looking to have a Smash moveset of your very own, consider becoming a patron, and you'll receive a custom-made moveset made by myself every month for the characters of your choice. Thank you in advance, and remember that I don't do requests outside of Patreon. With that, I'd like to wish you a good night, and I hope that you stay safe, take care, and remember to have a good one.